Hey, I'm Adam Jusko, and this is Strictly Credit Cards, where we talk about strictly credit cards. Subscribe, why don't you? In this video, we are going to look at the Bass Pro / Cabela's Club credit card. Back in 2017, Bass Pro Shops bought Cabela's. They still function under two different names, but they put their card operations together. So if you get a credit card from Bass Pro, it's the same as getting a credit card from Cabela's. It's going to have a different logo on depending on which store that you go through, but they are essentially the same card. They give you the same stuff. So we are going to look at both of those cards at the same time because they're the same card. So let's look at the pros and cons of the Bass Pro and Cabela's credit cards. The card is a no annual fee Mastercard issued by Capital One, and it has sort of a paltry rewards program. So you will earn a 2% reward, or 2 points per dollar, on all of your purchases at Bass Pro and Cabela's, and then some other related companies, Cenex, I think that's how you say it, Cenex Gas, and convenience stores, or convenience stores that are associated with Cenex. And then you have some resorts and restaurants, but a very small number of them. So Big Cedar Lodge is one of the resorts, Uncle Buck's restaurants, so not a huge number of extra places where you can get that 2%. It is mostly Bass Pro and Cabela's where most people are going to be getting their 2 points per dollar, and then any other purchases you make that don't fit into that 2% category are only going to give you 1 point or 1% in rewards. And then you can redeem your points at some of the same places I just mentioned, obviously Bass Pro and Cabela's, and then some of those resorts too. But these are reward points that you are redeeming to get something in the future from Bass Pro or affiliated companies here. You cannot get cash out of this or anything of that nature. So that is how this works. Now, there are some things to like in this program, even though I don't think the rewards are overly generous. Your points don't expire, so you can use them for as long as you want to, or you can save them up for as long as you want to. You can use them in any amount, so you don't have to wait until you reach a certain point, and you aren't going to automatically be forced to use any of the points when you haven't really accrued very many. So if you want to let them sit for a while and accrue them, you can go that route too. Now, that 2% reward on the Bass Pro and Cabela's purchases actually could be increased if you spend enough on this card to reach the silver or gold level. Now you have to spend $10,000 to reach that silver level, and that would only bump that 2% up to 3%. If you spent $25,000 in a year on this card, the following year you would have a 5% reward on those Bass Pro and Cabela's purchases. Now, that's an awful lot to spend to get yourself up to a 5% reward at Bass Pro and Cabela's, when so many other store cards will give you that same 5% right out of the gate before you've even spent anything. So maybe that sounds like you're really getting an increased reward, but in truth, when you compare it to other cards out there in the market, you could get 5% that you could use, toward future purchases at those cards right at the beginning, because they want you to come back. They want your rewards to be spent there in hopes that you will spend even more. So it's not really all that great of a deal at that silver and gold level. And if you're going to spend $10,000, you're going to spend $25,000 on a credit card in a year, this would not be the card that I would suggest you do it. If you have that kind of money to spend on your credit cards, well, then you could probably get a better credit card that is going to give you greater rewards on all of your purchases, and that would really be the way to go. As I make this video as a new card holder of the Bass Pro or Cabela's card, they are offering $20 as a bonus reward up front when you are approved for the card. If you use the card at least 5 times in the first 30 days after you open that account, they're going to throw in an extra $10 on top of that. So you could get $30 total if you spend, or if you use the card 5 times in that first month of having it. Not a great bonus, but it's at least a little something. Oftentimes the store credit cards like this won't have anything up front, or maybe you'll have a very small discount. So that's something that is a little worthwhile. Not as good as bigger banks would offer you for sort of general market cards. You get $150 or $200 maybe as a bonus on other cashback or reward cards out there, but not terrible. Now, as a card holder, you are part of the Bass Pro and Cabela's club that also gives you various perks and discounts and enhanced point opportunities in addition to the rewards that I just talked about. Some of those may be okay, and if you're someone that is very, into Bass Pro and Cabela's, maybe there's things there that would make you feel like this was really worth it in terms of getting this card, even if you weren't all that excited about the regular rewards. So it's a little something extra. I don't know if I would say that it's worth it or that it provides a whole lot of extra value, but for some people it might. Now, a quick note here, it might sound like I'm talking down this card a little bit. I'm not so much trying to talk it down as I am feeling like it is not the card that I would choose as the first one out of my wallet for most people. Like I said earlier, if you are a big spender, it wouldn't make sense to be putting so much of that money onto this card because you probably could be approved for better general market cards that would give you greater rewards across the board. However, this card could make sense for people as a complementary card to other rewards cards that they have. And then, of course, if you are someone that maybe your credit score is maybe a little bit lower and maybe you're having trouble getting cards from some of the issuers that have better rewards, well, then maybe this is a card that you would choose. However, it is a card from Capital One, and even Capital One has cards that I would probably say are better than this in terms of them being the first card out of your wallet for most purchases. Let's look at the rates and fees side of thing. No annual fee, like I said earlier, in terms of the interest rate structure. Sort of interesting. Your purchases at Bass Pro and Cabela's are going to be at a lower interest rate than any other purchases you make with this card. Remember, it's a Mastercard, so you can use it outside of Bass Pro and Cabela's as well. So Bass Pro and Cabela's, 9.99% as I make this video. Outside of those stores, anywhere from 15.24% to 24.24% as I make this video. So obviously on that 15.24%, not terrible as far as credit cards go. 24.24%, not so good. So it depends on what your credit history looks like as to where you would be approved. But it is interesting that the Bass Pro and Cabela's is a little less. Still not great even at 9.99%, but a little bit better if you were to carry a balance on the card, which I would advise you not do in any case. Anyway, no foreign transaction fees on this card. Capital One has this across all of their cards, so that is a good thing. If you use it outside of the United States, no extra charge for doing so. Some credit cards will charge you 3% for no particular reason. If you use their cards outside of the United States, this one doesn't. In terms of being approved for this card, probably a fairly easy card to be approved for compared to many others on the market. This is a Capital One issued store card. Capital One tends to be more forgiving of lower credit scores already, and on the store card end, oftentimes you can get approved with lower credit scores as well. What does that mean in terms of an actual credit score? Hard to say for sure. It's always a guessing game to some extent. 650 and over, I would think you would probably get approved in most cases. 600 to 650, that's shaky ground, but maybe below 600 you're probably not going to get approved. So a little bit lower there, you could still get approved here. And again, Capital One tends to be a little more friendly to people whose credit scores are not in the good and excellent range. So that's it overall. Hard to get too excited about the Bass Pro or Cabela's credit cards. However, if you got a good deal on a new purchase, if you signed up for the credit card while you're in store, I could see how you might go for it. If you were a super fan and you were going to hold this card as sort of a complimentary card to other credit cards you have in your wallet, that could make sense. Maybe your credit score is a little lower and you don't have access to some of the other reward cards on the market. It could make sense there too. So not spectacular, not terrible. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. See you next time.